Welcome to Breaking Initiative. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. My name is Brett.
And I'm Rob. This is the show where we break down our own tips and tricks to help you get the most out of your tabletop games. We share some of our favorite tools from around the community, discuss our past experiences, as well as new things happening with the hobby. And, Brett, you know what my favorite thing is about Dungeons & Dragons?
What's that, Rob?
It's leveling up to like level 10, 3 years into the game, and then you just, like that, just the snap of a finger, just lose everything. I love it when that happens to my players.
Did this happen recently?
No, unfortunately not, no. For some reason I balance my games and make it to where things are, fair too often.
Right.
And so they just kind of continue on, and but every once in a while, something happens and I see an opportunity, and I think that's a great topic for us to kind of delve into the meat of, because I don't know what your perspectives are on it, and I specifically didn't ask you for this video. It makes it more interesting.
Wait for the show. We wait for the show.
That's right.
Me and Rob never talk. We just don't talk about anything, and we're like, listen, don't tell me anything. You need to wait for the show. It goes live. We need genuine reactions.
He started once to tell me something about one of his kids. And I was like, shut up. Save it for the show.
Saved it for the show. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know how many kids I have. Doesn't even know.
Don't even know.
Yep. So we are wearing all black for a reason. You hear me? For a reason. Because we're talking about death.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I don't know what character that is. For a reason. I got nothing. There's an old Comedy Central character that I'm trying to think of that talks like that, and I'm blanking. Anyways, so we're talking about death today. Rob, take it away. Go ahead, give it a go.
What a downer of a subject for us to delve into. Delving 8 feet down into this subject.
6 feet, but okay.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little heavy-handed now. All right, so
actually, I like character deaths, but go on.
Yeah, yes. I have never had any of my significant characters die, at least as an adult, in the games that I've played. I remember when I was a kid, back in 2nd edition, my brother DMing or whoever, and it's like the game was just designed to be like a meat grinder, So you get attached to them and build up this backstory and stuff, and you go into whatever dungeons and the module that came with it, and just... And but the newer in all the games I've had the pleasure of playing, my character has survived on a bit, and honestly, in all the, like I was starting to say earlier, in a lot of the games I've DM'd, I noticed this habit that just kind of forms naturally, where I'm kind of a number cruncher when it comes to planning D&D, and to the point where I'm calculating everything so that only like the last battles of like a story arc will really be like what's the thing above hard? Deadly
yeah.
encounter.
Yeah.
Right. And everything else just goes up to hard or medium, hard, and just kind of like balance. But that's really balanced for the characters. Doesn't really take into their magic items into account too much.
Yeah.
So you end up just handing them a bunch of encounters that almost kill them constantly, but never quite do, because they have a healer or two. So,
we ran a one-shot one time, and I was like, I'm going to give them like 1 or 2 magic items. It was 4 people. We did one-shot level 18, or we might even did level 20. I put them against an ancient dragon and its lair. All of these things, added so many things. They wiped the floor with him. Honestly, it was because I actually I rolled bad on his recharge. That was 98. That was 90 hit points. I saw
that has
for
a lot
sure.
to do with a lot of big creatures. That recharge has a lot to do with
the high success or not. Yeah,
it's going to kill them or not.
Yeah, but so all right, I'm going to start with a secret. Rob, we've talked about our Strahd campaign quite often, and this is going to come out now. Everybody's now going to know. But I died. Ty, my character, the monk, he died the very first encounter. So I want to first set the scene. It is a month or two before we're like, hey, we're going to get this thing going. I buy my mini. It comes in. I paint it. I get dice. We get excited. We go to this big office building that we could stay there until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's built up. It's super creepy. The DM, he has, our DM, he has like the creepy music going right along that came with Strahd's campaign. And we're like, this is freaking us out. It's like a Scooby-Doo mystery, but like way darker. And the first encounter we fight in the death house, I'm a monk. It was with a gunslinger fighter who would be in the distance. And then we also had a cleric. I thought I was the front guy. So I took the front. Not a good idea. I died. I legit died. Rolled my death saving throws, failed them all. And that happened. And so what we did from there, the DM was like, for the most part, he was just like, no. Like, just no. You didn't. You just saved. I'm just going to have it like you saved. Because, and I know this is controversial, but because we built up this campaign, we just got started, and like I spent $20-something on Hero Forge. I spent however much money on the paint. I took time and I painted my figure, got him in there, and he died. First time, 3 failed saves. But that, I think, is a good example of just reading the room. Like, I think I would, and again, I might get yelled at for this, I might do the exact same thing. I might have done the exact same thing of like, listen, we've been building up to this, and this happened. It just didn't. And he's the DM. Now, once basically you get out of, like, now taking that going forward, I don't think you should do that into a campaign when you're not brand new at the campaign anymore. Or you do that. That's fine. I mean, the right call is the fact that I died. But I don't know if I would have done it. I might have made the same exact decision that he made, just because that's kind of the way I DM. But I do think of the idea of death, of being a total normal thing. Like, hey, that's fine. That's cool. He could have done that to me. He just didn't. And I appreciated it. But yeah, so for the most part, my drunken master monk Ty should actually be dead. And I should have rolled a new character.
Yes, that's actually, I feel like, a very common, it must be common, because something similar happened to me, but from the reverse side, as the DM, the second campaign that I ran, they were about level 4, maybe 5, I'm having a hard time remembering, I'm pretty sure it was 4, so that's still kind of early levels, and they were in some other dimension that was like locked out from everything else, and 2 of them died, and I gave them an option to there was a way through like some sort of weird ritual that they figured out, because they were like desperate to bring it, like, someone back to life, that they were able to use one of the magic items that they had to bring one of them back, because it would destroy the magic item. So they had to pick one character to bring back.
That's almost even worse.
Yeah, they died to a shadow dragon.
Yeah.
But then I chickened out, and I allowed both of them to come back, and I kind of regret that, because I remember, like, the other guy was he kind of liked the way he died. It was like, oh yeah, they picked her obviously and not me.
Yeah.
But then I brought him back, and then he eventually. I could tell he was ready to move on to a different character.
Yeah.
And so he actually asked if he could just make another character, and we ended up writing his character off into some side NPC.
Sure.
And I regretted that so much that in the next campaign that I did,
you just killed somebody on purpose.
Mission 2, they, like, at the beginning of Mission 2, they decided, oh my god, no, I think it was the first mission. No, it was definitely the second mission. They got drunk in a bar after witnessing, like, the first antagonist of the first arc of the campaign, like, just murder this NPC that they liked, that they just met.
Right.
And like, let's let's just go find where he sleeps and just kill him in his sleep. How about that? Like, cause they're all like drinking and stuff at the mead hall, and they're like, all right, fine. And they go and find him, and I designed him as like a level 5 encounter, and he had like all these wolves and stuff that he can like command. And they just one hit, like this one, like he was even gonna let them like go, like, all right, we'll talk about this. Like, he woke up in the middle of the night, like, caught them. Like, you didn't sneak past me. I know what you're doing. He was about to let them go, and then one of them got a little cocky because he felt that. He was from the last campaign where he knows I'm a little merciful. I'm like, I got to nip this in the bud. I got to nip it right now. No. They cannot think for this entire new campaign I'm starting that I'm going to be merciful and allow this kind of... So he started fighting. Like, the wolves started attacking. He pulled out his great axe, and one guy got in the way to save his friend, who was, like, talking all bitter to him. Just one hit, just right to the chest, just completely dead. And then he was bleeding out, and they were so busy trying to heal themselves from the wolves that they couldn't heal him, and he just died. Lost 3 saves and died. And
awesome.
It was, and you know what? That set like this really harsh tone for the rest of the campaign. And that character, or a character that was associated with that battle, was able to bring back that character as almost like a ghost. Mm-hmm. It was a Norse themed thing, so it was like we're like holding him back from going to Valhalla, so they had to like go, kill him to release his soul and stuff. So it ended up being this extra part that added some oomph to it. It wasn't a meaningless death, and that's I think a really important topic. It's really lame if somebody dies, and then everybody just kind of moves on and forgets it.
Yes, I feel like there's a balance there. One, you can it won't be totally forgettable if you are invested in and people are invested in you. Like, if you're invested in the player characters around us, like, I feel like if my character died now in our campaign and we just moved on, it wouldn't be something we just move on from. There would be I think some heartache in these kind of things, compared to just like, oh, Ty Jr. shows up and the next one he go like no. Yeah, no, I agree, and it's kind of cool that you brought him back in your campaign. I mean, how many times do we mention Critical Role here? Like, all right, no spoilers, but that is a huge thing. That's a huge thing based off the person that dies and whatever else happened after that. But I'm just saying it was cool. Man.
For a show I never really watched. Again, I never really watched Critical Role.
I really hope
you sure do mention it a lot in this show.
I try not. I don't care if I mention it a lot. Heck, I love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I really try to back out of it. Like, I was digging myself a hole there, and I think I just got some spring boots and just shot out of it. Hopefully I didn't spoil it, and somebody's like, shut up! So, I didn't. I just stopped. So, anyways, yeah, there are some really cool examples of death and coming back. What do you do when somebody just dies? What do you do if they die failing like their death saving throw? They're just dead, they bled out, they're gone. Or what, anything else?
That has almost happened a few times to my own characters. It would depend on the kind of character, how invested I was in them, I think. It is, you would hope, you see, at that point, you don't get a say, really. Technically, in-game, you get no say.
Right.
What happens from that point on? They could throw you on a pyre and say some last rites and move on, or just leave you in the dungeon because they're running away from some monster that killed you. You don't know. What
do you do about like a ritual spell after they die, but then they get brought back?
Right. So bringing somebody back from the dead in D&D is an often talked about topic, and I thought we could roll it into this. I knew it was going to come up because. I kind of flip-flop on this one a lot. Mm-hmm. I like to go by the rules of the book and not restrict anything. But sometimes the game can actually become more interesting if you limit things in certain ways that aren't heavy-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things is handling reviving characters, because if you can just bring people back from the dead, it lessens all you need is one person to survive and bring everybody back.
Or a cleric to survive.
There's no such thing as a total party wipe, as long as everyone's got enough diamond dust or whatever to bring everyone back.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a sense of security that's in that, but even still, I like the idea of it still is a role. You know, it's what are you sacrificing to the Raven Queen? You know, what is it you're doing that is going to bring that is going to either talk the Raven Queen out of not taking the soul and keeping it? That's like, I feel like the diamonds and the resurrection spell just gives, I like to play the idea of like, it just gives you that conversation. You could still fail at it, and then they could still be dead.
Right.
You know?
But what about a setting that has a defined afterlife? So what happens in like my last campaign that I ran, which was a Norse-themed one, which is very well-defined, like things that happen after you die. You either get taken to Valhalla, or you get taken by some I can't even remember his name now. Some weird guy. It drags you to Helheim and then brings you to Lady Hell, right? And
I mean, Dante's Inferno is pretty much how D&D works, right? Isn't there like 9 levels of it? Is that kind of how?
Yeah, and even a lot of that kind of stems from Norse mythology, and how, like, you know, Odin goes down to hell to beg for what's Baldur's life, you know, so what you have is this system in which I had to come up with some well-defined rules to modify resurrection, and that what it is it depends where they went, what happens next. If they got dragged to hell because they died dishonorably, and there was like I actually took stuff from Norse mythology, like if they drowned, if they died doing something dishonorable, or if they were a dishonorable person when they died, or they didn't die in combat, like fighting, they would go to hell.
Right.
And if you catch them before like a certain period of time, which I kind of based on how they have those time periods before, like the true resurrection and like the revivify, you had that long to like revive them before you have to actually deal with you have to basically pay off that guy that drags them to hell.
Right.
And then hell, if they make them all the way to her, you actually have to make a deal with her to get them back. So whether it's like offering somebody else or something like that, but more than likely they're hero characters. They would have gone to Valhalla, in which case you're bargaining. They've now become Einherjar, which are like these, like, they're basically just warriors, but they're there now. But they're like honorable immortal warriors. So instead, it's almost like you're bargaining to borrow them for a little bit. If you have a good enough reason that it's in the interest of the gods, like Odin, then you could then sort of borrow them for a bit, and they could come back in their Einherjar form. But being low level, like level 2-1 when that happened in that same campaign,
you're just above a guy.
Like, they know it just doesn't happen. You don't just bring somebody back.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind, and that's an interesting way to play it. Is there's nobody in the world you can take them to. You have to discover the power to do that yourself. And when they find something like Revivify in their spell list, it's not just, hey, good job, you leveled up. Here's the spell that brings people back from the dead. There's like something happens in the story of the game, and I say, okay, you picked that spell. Hold on. Yes, it's on your spell list. You can't use it yet. And then I would like make like a whole mission about it. Like, you can cast this spell now that brings people back from the dead because like some Valkyrie came down and like bestowed it upon you because they see it fit for your quest. Like, make it something that not everybody in the world can do. Otherwise, the whole economy's turned upside down. You know.
Yeah, if I was going through a book, like a campaign book, and out of nowhere somebody dies. And like if the whole party was like, hey, no, we love that character, and the player character was like, I love that character, I want him back. And then it's like, okay, all right, fine, we're going to hell to get him. And then they do that, that's great. Fine, okay, then I'll adjust. But if I'm like playing a campaign, if I'm playing through, and then like you and I almost kind of would do, maybe not that, like, yeah, you got the spell Revivify, but again, I would do it to where it's like you now have a conversation. You can now have a conversation with the with the person that can, you know, you might be able to stop it from happening. You know, if basically you roll high enough on persuasion or whatever you want to sacrifice, you know, or it kind of is all up to role play. That is kind of where me as a DM, I would want it to stop there. I'd be like, okay, guys, you got the Revivify, you got the conversation, you failed. Like, let this go. Like, you got to move on. Like, hey, if we're level 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, you've probably already thought of another character already because you've already been playing this character for so many months. Yes. And you're like, oh, man, I wonder about this one. Well, guess what? You now have that opportunity. You know, I hate to say it, but yeah, like a while ago, I mean, I wanted to play I went for my monk, and then right when we got to right around level 5 or 6, I was like, oh man, I wonder if I should go bard. And then like we eventually did a one shot with a paladin, and then I was like, oh man, that was fun. Man, maybe I should have went paladin. And then like now my brain's going all these other places, almost to where like it's actually completely reverted back to like, actually I really like my character. I almost felt like almost even back in love with him again, if that makes sense. But we have backup characters ready to go, and to be honest with you, like, it sucks. Take the emotion, let it hurt, all these losses. But then at one point, I think even for a DM and as players, like, great storytelling of like, that dude died. Like, this is like for real. You know, there's really like there's really consequences in the game. You know what I mean? It's not just like, let's all just go do whatever. It's like, well, you can. There's going to be consequences. And so I almost see the idea of like traveling down to hell, like, kind of like, and to bring this back up, but kind of like the Warlock Patreon arc. I was like, somebody dies, we're going to wind up doing that. Oh, there's a warlock in the group, we're probably going to deal with this Patreon.
Well, so not necessarily an entire quest, right? So the spell itself literally just opens up some sort of like
portal to take you
almost
there.
like a scrying, not even a portal to get there, just like almost like the face of hell, like on some rock or something.
Oh, okay.
Or like it's almost like sort of hinted at what's happening, but not actually spelled out who it is you're dealing with. But everybody knows what's happening.
So it is similar to what I was saying. It actually is what I was
right. Exactly.
I thought it was like, all right, we're traveling down. I mean, and that
okay, guys, how much do we like this guy?
What soul is that? Here, check our index here. Oh yeah, he's on level 3. So you got to get through 3 levels of hell.
Random encounters.
Just a bunch of random encounters.
Hey, it's not worth it, guys. We liked you. We didn't love you.
Yeah. They actually show up there, and then they're like, no, let's just go back. This isn't worth it. No. It's hot. We thought we were going to fight for him, but it's hot. Anyways, all right. Anything else with death?
Here's a very interesting, simple idea that's very controversial. Take all the revive spells completely out of the game. A lot of people actually do this. Not most, far from most.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of campaigns where they talk in Mission 0 and say, hey, I want this game to be a little more gritty. I want
hard mode.
You know, right? Yeah, we're gonna roll for lost limbs, and we're gonna if you fail 3 death saves, you're dead, and there's no such thing as a revive spell, short of like something like a wish, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like that's the wrong balance of D&D that I would like to play. I like to play the story side, and I don't want to make sure that my character's not a complete trash like character that he doesn't help, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if I would want to play that, because that seems more like competitive D&D compared to like, I don't know, compared to like, hey, let's all go be cooperative storytelling. Because like, as a cleric, they get those spells at the right time as they are basically becoming very holy or very connected to their god, and you know, basically being chosen. And it can still happen. It can still happen. And I think even as a DM to also play into that. Yeah, revive is still in it. So I know you guys are level 8. I might now give a challenge rating of, you know, 9 or 10 or whatever, because you have some magic items, and you guys do have a bunch of revives, and you do have a bunch of potions. So if I want something deadly, you got to really strategize to not die, because that could be on the DM to keep that stuff in it to where a player doesn't feel held back, but yet still make it challenging.
I see. I think that it seems to be in a lot of different ways. It is the meat grinder kind of dungeony, kind of competitive, let's see how far we can go without dying kind of games. Mm-hmm. But it's also the kind of games I think they're trying to hit that sort of that theme of like something you'd get out of Game of Thrones, or something way grittier than D&D, and they want to hit that sort of tone where this game where there's not a lot of combat, except where the players like pick the combat, like they pick fights with people to like progress the story in the direction they want to go.
Right.
But otherwise they're just role playing. There's something interesting about the idea that they're progressing the story in a direction that they want to go, in this sort of sandbox setting of like the story revolves around these players, that's sort of heightened in a way by knowing that if they do something wrong, like, or that's way out of their scope, like they heard about some dragon in the mountain and they find out they're way over their heads, you know, or they pick a fight with the guard captain and they actually get executed, or they get run down in the street, and or they just die from like a poison. And there's something interesting about the idea that now that they can bury him, there's nothing they can do. Sure, they'll probably find another party member, but the idea is that that's almost a theme of the game then.
Yeah.
It's different than a normal D&D game, but
yeah.
it's the theme of loss, of not being able to... You have to live with the mistakes you've made.
So here's a... I actually can see that maybe even... Because like rules as written, revivify, come back. Heck...
Just done.
You just come back. Like I think you could even take another action, like right after that. Like you just back up. Now, I would say to kind of find a balance between like dying, coming back, and maybe even playing it by the character itself. Like, hey, the person, like, you know what? This guy's kind of tired of his character. You know, what do you want to do? You want him to come? All right, let's do it. Or maybe not do that. But then what about like a consequence for dying and coming back? You know, one of the things that I've heard, like the whole madness. You know, roll something on the madness table. That is now that is a flaw and an effect that is happening to you because you died.
Saw the after, like the gaping maw of death.
Yeah.
And you were there for maybe time is not comparable to time here, right? And something happened and messed you up, right?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting way to deal with it. Second edition, Advanced D&D that I played, you like lose levels and constitution points.
Right.
It's just like, sorry, man, you should probably just roll another character.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not worth it unless you really like this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're now 2 levels lower and your constitution went down by... Let's roll 2 points.
Just kill me. Please just kill me because I'm useless now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But consequences like that are interesting if they are not directly tied to your stats, because then it makes you just want to have a new character when, you know.
Possibly.
It's
it
more
all
interesting
depends.
when it's...
I mean, if it's like, oh, you come back, but you're completely mute and you're just oh, and you can't say anything, and you're just a howling, humanoid.
Yeah, maybe you've got like this gaping scar right here. You're missing an eye or something,
right?
Or like part of your jaw's missing, and you got to communicate through sending stones. I don't know.
Or there's like a plus minus. I remember you did that with like natural 20s that like you would get somebody would maimed or something would happen. So like you get a giant scar, you lose an eye.
I love that.
Was it just disadvantage on perception checks, but advantage on intimidation now?
Yeah, exactly.
So like you kind of get you kind of create. You don't just create just a negative to where now the player's like, "Damn, this is all the time. Yeah, this is hard." But there's pros and cons.
There's a very specific thing I want to bring. I see we're getting close to like that time, the sweet spot.
Bring it up, and then we'll wrap it up after that.
I would rather my character die than be reincarnated through the Reincarnate Spell. Why do you think it exists? I don't like it. I would be mad at somebody if they cast that on my character.
So I don't disagree with you. For me personally, even though my first time I died, but again, we were level 1, we invested literal money and things like that, and we just started, and yes, I died. At this point, if I died, it's like, I'm out. No, don't resurrect me. But there are...
For anybody that doesn't know, in case anybody's new, the Reincarnate Spell brings you back, you roll randomly, and you become a new race. You might not be a human anymore, you might not be a satyr anymore, you're now an elf, or a halfling, dragonborn.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, continue.
No, I think I would agree with you. I would possibly not... I probably don't want to be I don't want to be brought back. Like if I died, and they're like, oh, we're gonna go and we're gonna bring it back and pump the diamonds in them and all these things. Like unless like the party specifically needed me, like, hey, we need you to come back. Like that specific character for whatever reason because of the story, then okay. But me personally, like as a D&D player, I still feel weird that I got brought back in the first level. I feel weird. Like I was like, I feel like there's kind of like an asterisk next to this whole campaign for me, kind of, not fully, but yeah, like I'm not that prideful person of like I love storytelling. I like rolling natural ones and seeing what happens. I definitely like rolling natural 20s better. But if I die, like, cool, what's going to happen from this? What's going to happen afterwards? Now we have like some solid role play that's going to happen at the table. I'm looking forward to that rather than just stats and encounters. So.
Yeah. I think I would only be happy being reincarnated in the game with the Reincarnate Spell if I didn't like my character. That's all I'm going to say. If I just legitimately was not attached to my character whatsoever. But otherwise, I'd be like, oh... Now it's like all this like what about his family? Like now he's a halfling.
Yeah.
Like anyway.
Hey.
I digress.
Let the players deal with that. You know what I mean?
I guess you have to.
Yeah.
Is it interesting? That's to be debated. Do I think it's interesting? Probably not.
Yeah.
It'd be difficult to make it interesting. But yeah. I mean, okay. Actually, it happened in our game, right?
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, we had a gnome get reincarnated. It was through like some sort of more ritual kind of ethereal.
He didn't die. It was just like
stuff.
You're a different race now.
He was disintegrated, but he also had this other thing going that's from those curses and the thing I don't want to spoil for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he became another race and he became a dwarf. But it's like does he have dwarf family members now? No. Does he know the dwarf language now? That doesn't make sense. Did he forget Gnomish? What happens if he goes back to his family? Do they know who he is? Can he just prove it? Like,
right.
Are these things that we want to address in the campaign? Is it going to slow things down? I don't know. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because it was outside of our grasp of allowing it to happen. It was thrust upon us.
Yeah.
I think that's a more interesting way to handle it. Having a druid cast it, I just tell the player, like, look, please don't do that.
Right.
just let me die as my character and not
Right.
come back as someone else that is unfamiliar with everything. Like,
Yeah.
at least everyone else is unfamiliar with them, and they're kind of no place of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I definitely get that because sometimes whenever I'm getting really, really low, I start thinking about my other characters and I get happy. But also, I really want my character too. I'm just an indecisive teenage girl. I don't know what to tell you. I want everything and I want to eat it. I want all my cake and I want to eat it too. All right. So we good?
We're good.
Did we talk enough about death?
We talked it to death.
We talked it to death. There we go. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Like, subscribe. That'd be great. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. I was mixing all of that together. My name's Brett. Thank you, guys. Rob, you're not gonna say bye?
See ya.
There. Okay. There. Bye.